Now we're going to move on to the definition of complementary angles. And I'm going to do complementary angles and supplementary angles together. And then we'll go through and look at some examples. Excuse me. So the definition of complementary angles is used when perhaps our given says something along the lines of angles 3 and angle 4 are complementary. And our rebuttal to that, or our response to that, is going to be the measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 4 equals 90 degrees. So again, just like some of the other ones we've done, this works in both directions. So you can do the definition of complementary angles. Oops. The definition of complementary angles. Similarly, we have the definition of supplementary angles. So if I'm given angle 5 and angle 6 are supplementary angles, or supplementary, then we can return that with the measure of angle 5 plus the measure of angle 6 equals 180 degrees. And again, this works in both directions. So I could be trying to find that angles are supplementary. And if I can set up an equation and find that they add together to equal 180, I can then say by the definition of supplementary angles, they are supplementary. And we'll see that in action. Okay. So now we'll take a look at an example for that. So now we're going to take a look at an example that uses either the definition of supplementary angles or the definition of complementary angles. And we are provided with our given, which says angle 1 and angle 2 are supplementary. And angle 1 is congruent to angle 3. And that is our given. So because this one's going to have a couple of different steps, because angle 1 and angle 2 are supplementary, I know I can say that the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 is going to equal 180 degrees. So I've used my definition of supplementary angles. To prove that the angles add together to equal 180. Now I've got to figure out my goal. If you look at that proof statement, always important to check that out. Where are you trying to go? Is to prove that angles 3 and angle 2 are supplementary. So I've got to somehow get angle 3 into the conversation. My given says angle 1 is congruent to angle 3. So I could say that the measure of angle 1 is equal to the measure of angle 3 by the definition of congruent angles, which we talked about yesterday. Now, since angle 1 and angle 3, the measures are equal to each other, I could replace the measure of angle 1 with the measure of angle 3 in its equation, and that's called substitution. And then for 5, I have, so number 4, step 4 says the measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 2 equals 180. And I know that means that those two angles are supplementary. So I can finish this saying angle 3 and angle 2 are now supplementary. And I am using the definition of supplementary angles again But this time, I was given that two angles added together to equal 180 degrees in step 4, and I'm using the definition to say in step 5 that those two angles are supplementary. So we use the definition in two different directions on this one problem. The first time we were told in words that two angles were supplementary, and then we turned that into an equation with the sum of 180 because of the definition of supplementary angles. And then in step 4, we were given an equation where two angles had a sum of 180, and we turned that into words saying that they were supplementary with the definition of supplementary angles. So we got to use it in a couple of different directions.